You're listening to the Lazy Entrep podcast, productivity, automation, and outsourcing tips so that you can work less and live more. Here is your host, Jason Dulé.
Don't you hate it when you have to actually call companies nowadays? As most of us are online business owners, we're used to making sure that we put all the information that a customer may be looking for on our website. And when people need more information, we make sure that we have easy ways for customers to contact us via Twitter or email, right? So many of us avoid having to put in our phone numbers simply because we're not used to having to talk to people, unless they're our family or friends, or if they're emergencies. But not all companies are like that. A lot of companies still have things on their website that say, please call us for more information. In fact, a lot of large companies, even online companies, request people to call to get prices and quotes and such. And then there are transactions that are primarily done with phone calls, calling our banks, scheduling meetings, and calling local businesses. So it's unavoidable that there are times when we have to make phone calls. And I don't know about you, but I just hate it. I hate waiting on hold, being transferred from one department to another, and having to call back later. I feel like it's an absolute waste of time. That's why when I needed to call around 20 co-working spaces to ask for their details for a blog post I was making, I delegated this task out to a virtual assistant. So instead of spending my own time, which I value at least $50 an hour, calling one company after another, I paid my VA $5 an hour to make calls for me. It took her 3 hours to get the information I needed. And I couldn't even imagine myself spending 3 hours on the phone just to get that info. So I was more than happy to pay $15 for it. Think about it this way. There was nothing really special about the information gathering task I had my VA do. Sure, I needed specific information for my blog post, but anyone could actually collect that information for me. It didn't need to be me personally. You may be wondering how I could pay someone $15 for 3 hours of their time. And if you haven't been following my previous episodes, I hire my virtual assistants from the Philippines, and my VAs are more than happy to do tasks for me for $5 an hour. But wait a second, can my VAs from the Philippines actually call companies in the US or Canada or wherever? Sure they can. First of all of my Filipino team members speak excellent English. And with VoIP services, they don't have to pay long distance fees or anything. They can use something like Google Voice to make free calls to the US and Canada, with minimal fees if they're calling out other countries. Or Skype Out has a service for around $7 a month to call almost any country in the world. Totally worth it. So what I usually do is set up a Google Voice account for my virtual assistant, or I can ask them to set one up themselves. Then I create a Google Sheet with a list of all the information I need them to gather as the column headers, and they just fill in the rows. Of course, I have to give them a list of companies to call, and then they take care of the rest. In the next few hours, I get a message from my VA saying that they're done, and voila, I have all the information I need. So if you hate making calls, if you hate waiting on hold and being asked to call in later, being transferred from one department to another, you know what? Get a virtual assistant to do it for you. Now, if you're looking into hiring a virtual assistant, I highly recommend you check out my free guide, The Ultimate Guide to Hiring VAs, over at lazyentrep.com/VA. Thank you for listening to the Lazy Entrep podcast. If you found these tips helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you left a review on iTunes. Even if it's just a couple of words, it'd be a huge help. You can find a link to review us on our show notes page or on our website, lazyentrep.com. Till next time.